This podcast has mature language, not intended for underage viewers.
Street cred sports. Street cred sports. I'm crossing over. I'm Euro stepping.
Hello, welcome back to part 2, episode 46. I'm going to get right into things. Now, the reason I separated them is because I felt like I had a lot of stuff and I didn't want to just have like a really long episode. So I figured, you know what, let me do part 2. It'll count as the bonus, so I won't be any bonus content. So if you're a Patreon person, I mean, obviously you're going to get with this, but everybody's going to be able to hit this episode. So let me get into what I start over again. Some things on my mind. Part 2. College football is coming down to the wire. The college football playoff is done their rankings, and you got six or seven teams jockeying for the 4 spots to be in the playoffs. I really think that they should have started the 12-team playoff this year, but listening to some analysts and pundits, they said that there was certain conferences that didn't want to do it because they didn't want one conference to have more teams in, which it's like it all kind of comes down to me. The biggest problem with college football is you have lots of games. You have lots of big teams playing games that they're going to beat, they're going to win by large margins. They're playing smaller opponents. Now, I get the whole, you're doing it, that it's good for those smaller programs. You get a chance to play big boys. You get money. Hell, NMSU, I think they got paid $1 million. Might have been $1 million to go play Auburn, and they go up there and they beat Auburn. So, that's good. Now, some teams is going to be a little bit more competitive. Now, they might, NMSU is not a Power 5, but they're, at least a mid-major. So, the game should be more competitive. I just want competitive games. I don't like seeing teams beat 5 or 6 teams by, 60, 70 points. And then when it comes down to playing quality teams, they get drugged because they hadn't played anybody. So, my biggest gripe has always been with college football, you don't have teams playing, good schedules. Like, to me, I would just say if you're a Power 5 conference, you might get one team, one out of 5 power conference game. Not an out-of-conference schedule game, but an out-of-Power 5. So you can play one team a year that's not in the Power 5 conference. After that, shit, everybody got to play each other. You can't just play from your conference. I know a lot of times the SEC will just play. I mean, they play other teams, but they tend to just try to play SEC because they say, well, SEC is the strongest. But now they're doing these games where they're playing against other teams and other Power 5 conferences, and they're losing. And that's what it should be about. The biggest issue is because you don't get enough teams in. So teams want to pad their stats and say, hey, well, we got, we don't have any losses, or we only lost to this team. We should be in the playoffs. In the NCAA basketball, you're getting 68 teams. You probably, if you're not in there, you probably know that you didn't deserve it. You can whine about it. Well, this team got in over us. But for the most part, So like in the NCAA with basketball, everybody plays almost everybody at the beginning of the year in the different tournaments, different out-of-conference leagues. So you play a lot of teams. You have a good body of work to be able to say if you're good enough. You're going to have Dukes and Kentucky's playing early on. Gonzaga just lost to Purdue. You're going to have UConn playing somewhere. Arizona beat Kentucky. Not Kentucky, they beat Duke in Duke, like a week ago. So I love the fact that they played. It gives you a sense of where you are early. And it doesn't mean that, they lost to, like, Duke lost to Arizona. They're not going to be in the NCAA tournament. No, that's just a part of the season. So I know football is different because you play once a week. You don't play as many games, but, we need to do something about it. I'm hoping. I think 12 will be a good round number. I think it will be. I think now with you having 12 teams, you're not going to have the 13 and 14 teams saying, hey, well, we should have been in there. Yeah, okay, you can make a case, but you're probably going to have the 8 to 10 strongest teams in there. And now you're going to pretty much get to see who's the shit, because a lot of times you play a team, you play that team, and then you have to play the championship. With this, you're gonna have to play 2 or 3 games. Everybody's gonna have a chance. Now, what they'll probably start whining about is where they're seated. Watch, you'll have teams like, well, I don't know why we end up getting 5 while we're seated 5, and that's probably because they're gonna end up having a tougher road. But instead of, excuse me, y'all, I know it's Thanksgiving, but instead of bitching and complaining about where you got to play, why don't you play those teams? Because if you win, you're good enough to win, then you can turn around and say, man, we beat everybody. Line them up. When the Giants came in 2007, I think they were a wild card team. They beat all of the good teams. They beat the Cowboys, who were the number 1 seed, and I believe they beat the Packers to go to the Super Bowl, and then they beat the Patriots, who were undefeated at that time. So there's no question, there's no asterisk about the fact that they won. It's they beat everybody. So when you beat everybody, then you can really bump your chest and say, man, we smashed everybody. So I don't want to hear about this, and this. So take the road that you're given. If you have a path that's easier, then so be it. But don't complain about trying to get, that's the one thing on college basketball. Oh, well, I think we should have been seated over here, and then it's like, well, they're looking at it and they're thinking, well, if we win, we got to play these teams, and these teams are tough. Man, just play. That's the one thing about the NBA is you have to play everybody. You have to play everybody twice. You don't go through the season without playing everybody at least once or twice. So you get a head-to-head matchup on them, and then in the playoffs, you got to do what you got to do. So, getting into the NBA, that was a good segue. I've never done that before. I kind of like that. Getting in the NBA, and if you don't know what a segue is, I recently found out is when you go from you use one line to kind of ease into another topic. So I thought that was cool. I got to pat myself on the back. I wanted to ask y'all about this in-season tournament because every time somebody asks about the in-season tournament and then they go to explaining it, I find myself knowing less and less about the in-season tournament. What the hell is it? Now, I know it's based on, European soccer. They do an in-season tournament and stuff. I'm going to go on the record and say the only thing I like about it is I love the courts, that they have the courts made up in different color schemes. That's about it for me. They're still basketball games. I mean, it's not like they're not playing people. They're still playing games, and these still count towards the regular season. But I just don't get it. I've tried to look it up to kind of understand what it is and why, and I'm baffled. I'm baffled. I'm like, I don't know what this is. This doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm going to watch because it's basketball and I get a chance to watch basketball. But I know that they were talking on TNT about it's kind of like, when college basketball season starts and you have the Maui Classic or the Great American or Great Alaskan Shootout, and all these different tournaments that teams play against each other and they win, and it's it means something. So I know it means something, and these teams enjoy it. If you're a hooper, you're gonna enjoy it. So I'm gonna enjoy it, but I don't understand it, and I guess the premise, from what I've understood or what I've heard through various people in the NBA, when they're talking about it, is really to keep the buzz and create interest in the average consumer, because around this time, college football and NFL they're dominating the airwaves, and that's really because they only play once a week. so they're dominating it. And after January and February, when college and NFL is done, then you shift to March Madness and NBA. And then once March Madness is done, then you shift really to the NBA. So it's kind of how it's always been, and you're not going to get the average person watching all the time. That's why you have marquee games, and that's why you probably don't allow guys to be sitting unless they're hurt for some of this stuff, because that's the big issue. When you have guys sitting and they should be playing, that hurts your ratings. That hurts all the stuff. So that's what you have to make sure you figure out, is having those guys come in and get work the way they're supposed to. So fix that, and then maybe you won't have to be doing this in-season tournament. But I do like the floor, and obviously I'm gonna watch the game, but I don't understand it. I don't think by having it, I'm like, oh my God, they're gonna have in-season tournament. I can't wait to see it. It's like, okay, yeah, they're playing games. So that's just my opinion. I mean, if you love it, then hey, it's okay. We're not just gonna be on the same page. I'm not saying I don't hate it. I don't understand it. And I don't see why it's needed. But the funniest part is when you have players and some people, like, it's like they're trying to push it and they're explaining it, and you can tell like they really don't know what it's about, and they're trying to explain it and hype it up, and it makes for funny interviews and stuff. But okay, so the next thing I'm gonna ask is it time to reevaluate traditional man-to-man defense with kids being able to shoot so well from deep? The whole protecting the paint 1 or 2 feet inside the paint stuff, outside help, is seeming to give away a lot of good shots for players, especially kids that can shoot. So I watched the game, and it was weird. I'm telling you, it's weird, because I watched it. I watched a high school game, and some of it looked more like the kids were late, not really understanding. This was a varsity game, but I don't think they were fully understanding. I don't know why, but it just looked like that, because these kids were throwing skip passes and getting wide open threes because the kid could shoot NBA range, right? They weren't always making them, but they could shoot far out. So that help was taking a longer time to get there. And then I watched the NBA. It was an NBA game. It was a couple of NBA games where it was almost the same thing happening. And it made me think, like, well, offenses have evolved. Why haven't defenses evolved in some thinking? Now, there's been a big war on basketball in 2 things. One thing was, step slide. When you move your feet on defense, you call it step. You step, and then you step 1 foot and you slide the back foot when you're coming, if you're moving whichever way. The foot you step with, your lead foot, you slide your other foot. Okay. Now there's something called a push step, where you push on in the foot instead of sliding it. You push and then you step. So you're supposed to be able to move at a faster pace. And I think it does do that. That's one civil war. The other civil war is closeout. You have some people who are used to the whole chopping your steps, closing out, hands up. And now you have a new concept where they're just sprinting out there, running as fast as they can and jumping and causing you to either pump fake and take a dribble in or something like that. So, there's a civil war with that. Some people agree with it, some don't. I think you should be able to use both depending on, instance. If you're guarding a faster guard, the step slide probably won't work as well. You're probably going to be using push up. And the funniest thing about people who say, no, you shouldn't use the push step, when you watch somebody going fast and they're going up the court and they're step sliding, they're not sliding, they're push stepping. So it's funny. It's like, yeah, but it's the same thing. It is push step, but then no, it's step slide. No, if you watch his feet is not dragging. It's almost like a gallop because he's going at a faster rate. But Yeah, that's a discussion. It's almost like, tastes great, less filling. Youngins won't understand that it's a beer commercial thing, but that was always funny. It started fights. So back to what I was saying. I think defenses need to evolve and understand that not everybody's great shooters. Obviously, you're gonna have some kids that that they're not good percentage wise, but everybody practices shooting now. Everybody can shoot. The days of just having the Splash Brothers is no more. You got teams where you have, as a team, the team can collectively shoot 35% from the 3-point line, and that's good with the analytics and stuff. You're going to have people hit enough threes to warrant stuff. I just think you should understand, like, if you're on the opposite side and let's say that person has the ball and that person can't drive, if you got a person or two in front of you, you don't need to have a foot in the paint. You really don't, unless you're worried about somebody cutting. But if you have somebody that's already in the middle, you should be about short corner wise. So when that skip pass comes, you're either able to deflect it, or you're able to be there as he's catching it, no matter how far out he is, right? And it seems to be, I don't know if it's a concept or if it's a ball IQ thing, but I see players on all levels, that are having that issue. And I don't know if it's scheme. Maybe it's the scheme because they're doing it over and over again. And I've always had this discussion with people. Like, I feel if you have a team, you're playing against a team and they can just shoot lights out, but they don't really have anybody that can just, hey, I can just get us buckets anytime and create offense for myself and other people. I think you kind of get away from that and everybody man up, and it's, hey, if he beats me, you don't help. We'll concede a 2. I'm not saying you just let somebody shoot, but yeah, maybe you can have help coming from some place, but you don't want to have help coming too much to where this player, they're great at ball movement and ball reversal and skipping the passes and making the defense, scatter chaos and stuff on their scramble defense. And you're ended up with wide open shots. If teams can shoot like that, it's, hey, let's man up, and we're gonna put our best defenders on their best ball handlers, and the other ones, we're just gonna let them either they're gonna have to take contested pull-up jump shots or contested layups, but we're not giving you any wide open shots. But that's just me. But I look at it and it's just like, why isn't defense or defensive philosophies evolving? They're evolving. I mean, they're playing different defense, scheme wise, what they used to. But I watch some games and it's a lot of bad defense. I know some of the stuff has to do with the rules. You're not able to do this, and this, but you can take teams out of their rhythm. You can really make things hard on them in certain ways. But that's just me. So, I hopefully we will see if things change. But for now, it's just a question of mine, and I'd like to know what you guys think on that. Okay, so I have a personal rant. I don't have an evaluator or parent rant, but I have a personal rant. This is me ranting, all right? I just realized why I'm not a Euro player fan. Now, when I say I'm not a Euro player fan, it doesn't mean I don't like Euro players. I do like Euro players. I like elements of Luka's game. I like elements of Joker's game. Giannis. Who else is out there? Embiid. Some of these guys. American players as well. But the thing that I realize why I'm always bothered by them is European players always contend, or European ball, is much more physical than American ball, right? That's what they say. Oh, it's much more physical. Defense is harder and stuff like that. Okay, I get that. My problem is when I'm watching them play and I watched them try to be physical, bumping, using their body. Boom, they're bumping. Boom. Now that part I like, right? And then when the player they bait them, and then when they try to be physical, and then you get physical with them, and they don't get a call, they start whining and throwing their hands up. That's not a foul. Luka does it. I saw Joker doing it a lot, and Joker was he wasn't doing dirty stuff, but he was trying to be overly physical, using his arm with his bump and lowering his shoulder, and defender was taking it and bumping him. And then when Joker turned and he was there, and Joker kind of got off balance when he shot it, he turned around looking at them, and it's like, yo, man, you was just really physical with him, and now you crying about him being physical with you. That has always been my problem with European players. And it started with Manu Ginobili. It did. And I love his game. I've never been a Manu fan. And the reason why is because I would see Manu bounce like he's power position dribbling, and he's dribbling and banging up against the guard, and it seems to be a technique. You bang with him two or three dribbles hard, and you banging, and then when you try to go at him again, you just exaggerate the contact, and now you're getting a foul. Manu used to do where he would get up into you defensively, really aggressive, right? And use his body to kind of bump you. Well, naturally, when the player feels that, it's like, okay, he's being physical, I got to be physical back. So then when the player would kind of use his shoulder into him and stuff and kind of bump him, Manu would fall. He would fall like, oh my God, and then he'd get the call. Now I know it was a tactic to force the ref to make a call, but to me, play the game. If I'm not calling that, then you're going to have to stop falling, and you're just going to have to play. I know they call it because I know they do it because referees call it, and they're trying to exaggerate the call. And it's spilled over to American players. LeBron does it all the time. You see a lot of players that do it a lot, and they're complaining about the fouls because they're initiating contact, and then when that contact comes back to them, they turn around and they, oh my God, I just got my arm cut off. And then it's the constant whining about every single foul. Everybody's doing it now. Everybody's doing it. But I tell you, my God, Luka complains about every call. Every time, like, oh, he's fouling me every time. And then when he fouls somebody, even harder, he does something harder, then he turns around and he's like, what? I didn't like, yo, Luka, come on, man. You can't play defense. You're hunted defensively. You're not good defensively. Of course you're fouling because you're trying to gain an advantage and keep things going. But that has always been my thing, and it just dawned on me when I watched Joker play. It's like it's the whiny face that they give, the complaining about, oh, they're being physical or they're fouling, and I'm not saying they're not. It's not about if they're being fouled or not. I'm just saying, don't jump up into me and use your chest and your shoulder to jump up into me. And then when I apply the same pressure, not over, but the same pressure you just gave me going back at you, now you're falling out of the place like I just hit you in the chest with a sledgehammer. And I'm getting a foul call. And you're smiling because you know what you did. Man, that's not being physical and tough. That's being smart. That's being smart because you're baiting them, and the players got to get better at being baiting. I just hate the whole, oh, it's more physical, but when you have somebody playing you physical, you're complaining about being touched. When you're the one who's watching, and I can show clip after clip of all of these guys being really physical with the ball and being really physical defensively and baiting players to do it. I think it's a European thing. Because I see it more now. I didn't used to see that before Ginobili. Now, of course, you're going to have a player every now and then. But it wasn't as prevalent as what it is today. Watch and pay attention. Watch how hard the Joker is banging with somebody down low. And then if he doesn't get his way, he's flailing, and then he's like, I don't get the call. Man, you good enough to where you don't have to do it. You should want nobody to call, because then you could punish him. Shaq was loving the fact that you didn't call, because he got to punish you, right? You couldn't. He was just bigger, so it wasn't his fault. But then when you start allowing other stuff to happen, man, it bothers me. So that was my personal rant. Okay. So now I'm going to go into my basketball ideology. I'm going to talk about handling pressure. Now, when I say handling pressure, I'm not speaking on, scoring, like you're handling pressure by making these moves, these in and outs or spin moves or whatever move you utilize to get yourself to the basket to score. What I'm talking about is handling pressure to be able to run the offense up top. You're not trying to get by them. You need to be able to handle the pressure with the defender draped over you, or being really aggressive and knowing how to run the offense, or trying to get open. If you're running offense and you're on the wing, knowing how to cut and use your body and popping out and calling for the ball so you can get it and run the offense or do whatever else you were going to do. It seems to be underrated, because I see a lot of kids, it's not really until maybe they've played, a couple of years. Most players, they've played a couple of years in high school where it really starts to be to where you see them able to do it. And then on top of that, I've seen varsity games where the pressure up top on the guards are so good that the players don't know how to get open. They don't know how to be physical to get open. And I teach players the V cut, and I teach them to kind of go into your body and then pop out. You have to be on sync with the ball handler. And I always tell the ball handler, don't throw the ball to the player, throw it outside of their hands so they can go get the ball. You don't want to throw it like way outside, but it's usually about 6 to 12 inches away from their hands, so they can move out and shield the defender. I've told players, I've worked with them on now, sometimes you just got to post that person up on the wing. Post his ass up, or her ass up. Post them up, get your body in front, and call for the ball. Now, I'm calling for the dog. Just throw me the ball. And I had a kid who was telling me that, he was having trouble getting the ball off of a play. The defense wasn't letting him, and it just my eyes kind of open, like, what you mean they didn't let you? And basically he was saying that they was physical with him, so I had to show him how to be physical. Like, no, man, like I would laugh. Like, I never encountered that where somebody was able to keep me from getting the ball, right? It's like, now I've had it where I had to work a little bit, where it felt like I was having to really physically wrestle and fight to get open. And then maybe within that 3 to 4 seconds, they pass it to somebody else. But ain't nobody stopping me from getting the ball. I can go get the ball. I don't care who it is. You put, whoever the best defender is, I'm going to be able to get the ball, because I'm going to fight and wrestle with you and get and stake my land and tell you where to throw the ball and hold them off, and then say, look, as long as you put the ball over here, I'm good, right? And I'll get it, okay? Yeah, I still feel like that now. I don't know if I can execute it as old as I am, but I still feel like that I can still, have enough to get into somebody and get out and get the ball. But I don't think it's taught enough. I don't think the passing angles with the guards up top being able to protect, the ball and being able to make. I see a lot of players, and that was one of the reasons I mentioned the passing, was I saw a lot of players, if they're up top and let's say they're dribbling with their right hand in the defender zone, and they're, in a power dribble, so they kind of have their left hand shielding them, and they're going to make the pass to the right wing. And oh my God, I said right wing. That kind of felt weird, but but when they made the pass, they had to grab it with both hands and then throw it, right? And I had to work with a kid on saying, no, you can shield this and make it a one-hand pass off the dribble. As long as you know that you're passing that ball, you can make that pass. Don't anticipate it and then throw it, because if you see it's not there, you're going to end up losing the ball. But there was a situation where I was working on him with it, and she actually told me how much better her passing was in the game because she was able to make that pass. So it's certain little techniques that you have to be able to help the players with, and it's just one of them things where it's good to be able to do, because if not, you're gonna struggle if you can't be physical and get up into the defender, or if you can't create that passing lane as a passer. You can't handle pressure, and as you ascend to play against elite competition, you're going to have to make those passes. You're going to have to be able to get open, because defenders are going to disrupt you. They're going to put longer defenders on you that are going to play over and try to physically keep you from getting the ball. So you got to be able to do that. Next thing is good guard play. It will help your teams. Now, great guard play can carry you to new heights. What do I mean by that? I've seen a lot of bad guard play, meaning simple things. Able to catch and shoot, not traveling. Can handle the ball on the right hand and left hand. Be able to run the offense and not be bothered by someone getting the pass where they need to go and stuff like that. The basic stuff, getting it up, not recognizing what it is. Right? That's good guard play. That means that you can get your team in a set. You can probably get the shots that you want, and you're not going to struggle to get things going. Well, then there's what I call great guard play. Now, the great guard play can do all of those things, but then you have special talent where you have kids that can do exceptional things that you don't know what you can do. Like what you can get. Like, so what I mean by that is, you can, if a team starts to trap you or press you, you can make those passes and put guys in situations to score, not just to play, not just to run the play, but to actually score. These things are good because when you do these things, you can make you can cripple a defense, because you can score off anything they do. You can handle any type of pressure, trap, full court or half court, double teams and all of that stuff, zones, man to man. You're going to get a quality shot for you or your player or your teammates every single time down out, in and out. Okay, so that's kind of what I feel when it comes to good and great guard play. I really think that you have to have at least good guard play to be effective when it comes to playing in wherever, high school, middle school, elementary, pee-wee league, whatever it is. All right. Now, I kind of segue again when I mentioned traps, because I was talking with a kid about if they knew if there was a difference between a trap as well as a double team. What's dealing with a trap? How do you deal with double teams? And the kid thought it was the same thing. And I said, well, no, it's actually different. It's the same in the fact that two players are running to the ball. But it's different in the fact that if it's a trap is they're trapping the ball in these spots every single time. Double team is they're only trapping the ball in certain spots when a certain player has it. And it's usually if it's the best player on the team, you double team him, right? Because you don't feel like he's going to be good, and you feel like he's good enough to beat that one defender. So you're going to send an extra defender at him to help, maybe get the ball out of his hands or make him take a really tough shot. So a lot of times you see double teams on the post, but now you'll see them running double teams out on the wing, right? So person gets the ball, and as soon as that person gets the ball, here comes the extra defender. They're going to come up, and they're going to be able to double team you. Now, if it's a trap, where when that ball goes to that wing or wherever, those defenders are systematically going to double team that ball, no matter who it is. 1 through 5, if you catch that ball in that spot, you're getting trapped. In a double team, they're only going to send an extra player when the 2 guard or when the point guard or when the best player on the team who's maybe killed them. You usually don't get double team. You used to not get double team early. It used to be a system where, hey, okay, he's heating up. Now we got to do something to disrupt him. Now teams will try to double team the best player. Now it goes without saying. Obviously, if you got a player who's 6'9", 6'10", playing against smaller kids, they're gonna double team that player every time down in the low post. That makes sense. But here's the thing: do you double team that player when they're catching it out on the perimeter? If they're big, right? Probably not. That's interesting, because we're gonna double him when he's down low, but up top we're not worried about him. We can match up with him 1-to-1. But with some players, it's we're sending a double at the same time, almost like a boxing 1. Okay, now boxing 1 is you got 4 players, or boxing 2. I've even heard of a boxing 3. You have a certain amount of players playing zone, and then you have 1 player playing man, straight man. Wherever this player goes, they're following him. And out of that, sometimes you will have one of the other 4 in that boxing 1 jumping out to actually double team them. So it can go many ways. You can be creative with defensive schemes depending on the player, but really good players usually find a way to deal with it. And that's what I was trying to tell the kid, is that the first time it happens, you're going to be surprised because you weren't expecting it. Now you have to be aware of what's going to happen. If they're trapping, you have to make sure that you understand, is it a true trap or is it a double team? There is a difference. Excuse me. Had to take a little sip of water. It's good to know these things, and I thought it was very cool that the kid didn't understand it, and when I explained it to him, he gave me this, oh yeah, that makes sense look. Like he was very accepting of what I explained it to him, and I never thought to explain it that there's a difference. I never even thought to think that it was a thing. I mean, it when you've played and stuff, you understand it, but you don't think of certain things. So that's the great thing about doing what I do. I get to always find things to be able to explain and help kids. It actually helps me, because now I realize, okay, yeah, that is a thing I should probably let other kids know. Double team versus traps. There'll be some people that say, oh no, it's the same thing. I would like for them to show me, because it's a trap if you trap every single person. Yes, but you watch film, some players catch the ball in some spots. You're not sending an extra player over there to them. It's that person, right? You're not sending a double team over to Draymond Green, but you'll send it over to someone else. Just a second. All right, so I had someone coming in, so I had to stop for a second. But yeah, you're not double teaming Draymond in that instance, right? But you'll double team Clef. It's another player on the team. It's Steph and Clay morphed into one. It's called Clef. No, but you're double teaming Steph. You're not double teaming Clay as much unless he gets hot, but you're double teaming Steph in certain situations, off the ball screen. Once he come across half court, you're trying to get the ball out of his hands or what have you. So that's kind of the thought process. You double team some players when you know that player is hot, or you're just trying to disrupt what that player is trying to see, give them different looks. I've heard coaches say, well, we're just trying to give them different looks. We want them to be uncomfortable, but obviously the great players are going to always be comfortable, right? So you do what you can and just hope for the best. But yeah, for the most part, I love the fact that I was able to bring that up and you know, help that kid understand that. So I'm gonna end it with that. I'm got to get ready for my training. So I'm gonna end like I always do. But before I say that, I want everybody to again have a great Thanksgiving. Take care of themselves, enjoy family. You never know how long they're gonna be here. You might have some that are here this year and not next year. So enjoy them while they're here. I know we get with family and sometimes it doesn't always go right, but let's try to enjoy each other, and please be nice to each other out there in Black Friday. I don't want to see any fights and stuff like I've had. I might have to repost my Black Friday zombie date thing again because we did it last year. I might have to put that out there. But in any case, I'm going to end it like I always do. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. I'm out.
Street cred sports, say it with your chest. Yeah. Go get it from the net. Street cred sports, okay, that's a bet.